The number one way you can reduce turnover is to pay people more. So I want to just press into what we're doing to work in that direction of paying our baristas more money.
Hello, internet friends. Welcome to the Valor Coffee Podcast. My name is Ross Walters. I'm one of the founders of Valor Coffee. We are located just north of Atlanta here in Georgia. Today, we talked about turnover. Last episode, we talked about why turnover is a prevalent problem, high turnover that is, in coffee shops. And today we got more into the things we've learned over the years on how to combat that and how to create a culture that's magnetic, that people feel like is worth it. Worth their time, because people are giving a lot of their time to you whenever they work at your coffee shop, up to 40 hours a week, maybe more. And that's a huge chunk of their life. Why are they doing that? Is it the money? Well, yeah, that's definitely part of it. Is it the culture? Yeah, for sure. That's definitely part of it. So we get into all that. It was a really enriching time. I really enjoyed it. I want to make you aware of a few things that we've got going on. Clive Coffee. They are an online coffee retailer that sells coffee gear and everything you need to brew great coffee at home or in your cafe. If you use code VALOR5 at checkout, it gets you 5% off Eureka grinders, which I really love, and Luca espresso machines, which are really great for home setups or carts. People are having a lot of success with those. We brewed some awesome coffee today from Sweven or Sweven. Scholars debate on how to pronounce that. And then another from Doc. So a few European roasters. It was all brewed with third wave water. More on that later. Some of you have heard us talking over the last few months about the Valor online community that we are developing. And yeah, we said we'd have it done in Q1 of this year. Alas, we didn't. But here to tell you, yesterday, Ethan and I sat down and recorded 5 exclusive videos for that community. And I'm really excited for what that's going to be. It's going to be a hub for really anyone in the coffee industry, anyone that is a leader in the coffee industry, or just baristas that care a lot about what they're doing. There'll be videos, courses, PDFs, and chats between different people on the community, different forums and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for what that will be. And we're getting closer to releasing that. So if you want to sign up for updates on when the community is going to come out, there will be a link in the description of this video or this podcast. Just go there, enter your email, and you'll be in the loop for all of those things. Now, without further ado, let's get to the show.
Well, another week, another Riley sleeping in for an hour past my alarm clock and being 40 minutes late.
They don't need to know that, man.
Well,
It's because you use that little Apple Watch.
I'm into full transparency. It didn't do it this morning. I don't know why.
Okay, so, we work in an industry where people sleep through their alarms.
Yeah.
And a common assertion is that the alarm didn't go off.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying the same thing? Like your alarm didn't go off?
Let me tell you exactly what happens. Sometimes my watch in the middle of the night will lock. Because that's what happens when you put your watch on. You have to unlock it because it has your Apple Wallet and stuff on here. And sometimes in the middle of the night, I don't know if it's because it gets away from my wrist or something like that, but it'll lock. And then when it locks, my alarm doesn't go off.
It gets away from your wrist?
I don't know if it pries up. Because that's the thing. It identifies your wrist, and that's how it knows it's still on your wrist. So I don't know if that's the thing, but I never sleep through my alarm when I don't wear my watch. So I should probably just stop wearing my watch to sleep.
It seems a bit uncomfortable.
It's not uncomfortable at all.
Well, it seems like it.
I understand that it seems as such, but I'm making it clear that it's not that uncomfortable.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
Well, hey, man, we will keep you accountable.
Yeah.
We'll be your accountability
Make sure to send me a text tonight.
Did you take your watch off?
Yeah.
And then you're not going to see it because you didn't have your messages to check your...
I like the sleep tracking. Maybe I should just get an Aura ring.
Maybe you could do a GoFundMe for an Aura ring.
Well, my wife has an HSA account from her work, and you can use your HSA money to buy one, which is kind of cool.
Dude, quit flexing perks and benefits on us, all right?
My wife's career. I'm sorry.
Hey, we're happy for you and yours, okay? Ross, how are you doing this fine Wednesday morning, brother?
Man, as usual.
Hey, I'm the host.
I can't ask a single question no more.
Okay, one question.
I'm cashing in early, Ross.
Our last episode sort of went off.
Oh man, I think we're.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, we are viral, baby.
I think we're officially crossing the viral threshold.
No, we
like
aren't.
dozens upon dozens of views.
I can't tell if it was the thumbnail or,
Oh my gosh.
the topic
good.
last week was, what was the exact title? Why coffee shops have terrible turnover.
Some
And
strong words.
Terrible turnover. It was the alliteration.
It was posted 4 days ago, and we almost have 1,000 views on YouTube alone.
wow.
Which is really good for us.
Yeah.
Keyword for us.
Subjectively.
So, I think that just kind of speaks to the fact that a lot of people think about that.
Mm.
And we are just among them, that we just think about that too.
Oh,
Wow.
So, excited to get into how to maybe help some of that or what we've done in the past to help this terrible turnover we talked about last week.
But amidst all those extra listens, didn't it get a little spicy in the comments?
I mean, spicier than normal. You've got your Elias from Tetherball, who is always
Going to bat for us.
I mean, when he needs to, but he's always.
I need him every day.
And then you got your brother Colson and your dad Randy.
My family's
They
in the
weren't
chat.
in these comments, I don't think.
I'm just saying, usually that's how it is. But
Colson just sent us an email with a link to a YouTube video explaining a vacuum.
yeah, we got kind of ripped up for not knowing, or I guess it was really me that looked like the dunce in the group of not knowing how to displace oxygen without nitrogen. And I'm sorry.
So this is Ross's apology video. For the next 50 minutes, Ross is just gonna kind of.
I think in that class in high school, I was flirting with my future wife.
Whoa.
Worth it.
And I didn't pay attention at all. And so I'm just going to have to say that was worth it.
And then we didn't finish college because that would have been a waste of our time.
Well, maybe
d-
not
d-
because we
yeah.
could learn about vacuums more.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's a waste of everyone's time. I said it would have been a waste of our time,
You did. Yeah, that's true.
just to be clear.
Dude, speaking of going to bat for us, Riley, you seem to, you really wanted to, kind of defend our
Don't
position.
play this off as dramatic. I wasn't that savage.
Well, why?
Well,
your keyboard was soaked in tears, man.
we just
when you were
had
responding to these people.
we just had somebody call us out in the comments for not replying to the comments. And so we're going to double down and reply to the comments on air.
Oh, wow.
How's that sound?
Or either on air or we'll actually reply to the comments. I did. So yeah, someone did call us out for not replying to the comments, and maybe
We
that
do
was a
tell
bit of
them
the
to
fuel
comment.
for. We do tell people to comment, so comment below. But
That was Czar 187.
yeah, and totally understandably so. And I wasn't like trying to make an excuse by any means, but the cold hard facts here are that we spend an hour of prep, and I mean max.
I was going to say, bro.
Burr.
In our Thursday owners meeting, and then Wednesday we get here at 7, or if you're me, 7:40. Prepare the podcast, and then we're done recording by 9:30, and that is all we do all week long for this podcast.
That's right.
So we aren't podcasters.
Yet.
We just have a podcast.
We are coffee shop owners and roaster owners. We're coffee company owners who have a podcast, and that is
3 hot mics.
very low. It's not low on the list of priorities. It's just like there are a lot of other things, and that is amongst them. But we want it to be higher priority, and that's why we're doing awesome things like hiring Lyndon.
Well, and he kind of said it in a flattering way. He was like, probably because you guys don't reply to the comments, be better. This is valor. And it's kind of like what he's saying is like, if you're going to be good, if you're going to be excellent, then you should be excellent at everything.
Yeah.
And that's fair. Czar?
Thank you, Czar 187. He's got a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a good point. So,
But
yeah.
that wasn't what you guys were talking about, me going to bat. There were other comments.
Well, yeah, the other comments kind of get into how we are not smart or experts in what we do,
Yeah.
but we're just out here doing it. And there's tension to that. There's something sweet about three dummies on a hot mic talking about their experiences. And then for, when you go viral though, as we are, people tune in and maybe they're expecting to hear from experts. And ad nauseum, we say, we don't know what we're talking about. We're just sharing. But
I think at some point in the last podcast, we talked about I think literally the intro opening bit was about us being idiots and trying to be less of idiots.
I can just start by reading the comment about the whole vacuum business.
Oh, man.
Just to like further put some nails in that coffin. Never listened to these hosts before. They seem nice and friendly. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
But I was dissuaded from listening to the rest of the podcast when the first 10 minutes are a showcase of the lack of education in the North American school system based on the accents. It was a perfect opportunity to introduce a double-blind test and make some sort of finding and whether something makes sense in practice like it does in theory. Instead, they focus on displacing oxygen with nitrogen on a vacuum. A vacuum is a space entirely devoid of matter. Honestly, the showcase of the lack of education in the North American school system, that's facts, bro. I mean, maybe it was my fault because I was flirting with my future wife. Maybe not. But, there's that. And then Riley had a really nice comment about, Riley, you were trying to, how do you say it? Like, meet him on his level, in his...
Empathize?
That's not exactly what I mean. He said, really excellent point. Sorry we couldn't pull a double-blind taste test out of thin air from an unscripted moment during a weekly long-form podcast. Definitely stems from our lack of education. Riley, care to comment?
Well, I agree that we're not educated. And I think going back to what I was saying, I don't want to get into this because I'm going to get roasted and toasted in these comments. You know what? So maybe I will get into it and I'll meet you there. But I don't really believe in the education system at all.
In its existence or in its effectiveness?
In its effectiveness and how it is used, especially higher forms of education. Sorry, if you're out there and you went to school and you enjoyed it and you got a lot from it and you're furthering your career, that's awesome. But it was with that I'm like, a little, I wasn't, that it was just funny that they were saying that whenever I thought there was a common sense answer for why we didn't pull a double blind taste test because we don't have any vacuum sealed coffee sitting right here to use because we were just talking on a podcast.
Right. And then Tech Doggeth said, in retrospective, my comment was not very helpful. Apologies for that. I sincerely wish you guys a good fortune, not a good fortune. I sincerely wish you guys good fortune and a bright future, smiley face. Thank you, Tech Doggeth.
Hey, that was awesome.
That was very kind.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get another one.
I think I've done that. Not recently because I don't comment on things, but when I was probably 17 years old, I feel like I was commenting stupid things and I got a response one time and I was like, I'm sorry.
You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was
YouTube at its finest right there.
Timmy Brennan, we're playing pickup basketball later. Thumbnail is Phi.
Wow.
Thanks, dog. Brennan Smith, shout out to Pixel and Google Phi. Ethan, you've got a brother in arms there.
Thank you, bro.
You either pay people more or put up with the inevitable high turnover. You just need to decide what's more important to your business. That one might be a little bit interesting for us to talk about for a second. I'll kind of read over it again. He's saying, hey, pay people more or deal with the high turnover. It's as simple as that. Just depends on what's more important to your business. And
no printer.
And what I would say to that is it reminds me of a previous episode of us going through the cafe viability spreadsheet and sort of getting into the weeds on, okay, well, how much money is there really to go around? And that sort of depends on what roles you have in the company and specifically what roles the leaders in the company have. Are you paying a salary to a GM? Are there 3 owners, like in our case, you know? But we'll get into this later, but we've kind of taken this stance that he's posing of pay bands, AKA paying more for skill, and paying more for tenure, and paying more for the people that are truly impacting our culture in a very notable way. But it's not that simple just to be like, well, if you want to keep people, then you have to pay them more.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Well, there's just always balance. And I was thinking about this, or I was talking to Michaela about a different subject yesterday, but it'll loop
Pizza
back
toppings,
together.
balance of
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking about how in Dunwoody we have a ton of seats, and everyone comes into Dunwoody and they say, "You guys," or they don't say this. Maybe they say it to you, but it has been in the reviews. Wish they had more seating. Not enough
they
seating.
do say that to me.
And there's like 60, 80 seats total between inside and outside.
Depending on who's asking.
Yeah.
And then in Alpharetta, we have 25 seats inside.
Yeah.
And people say the same thing there. So that was kind of, in Alpharetta, we were like, okay, we need more seats. So we're going to open our cafe in Dunwoody. We're going to have 3 to 4 to 5 times the seating, depending on who's asking. And we did that, and it's still not enough.
Mhm.
So what we have to do as the people with more information, because we're running this thing, is decide if we ever open a third model, what does striking the balance look like? Because if we can never have enough seating, maybe we shouldn't have another cafe with as many seats as Dunwoody, because it creates more dishes. So we need to find the perfect balance of enough seats to, fulfill a need, but not too many seats to where we're having to staff 3 people to do dishes.
Yep.
Same deal with this entire topic. It's like, you need to find the balance of how much do I pay people to prevent turnover? If you're paying your baristas $100,000 a year, they might stay forever, but you're going to go out of business. If you pay them
Forever until you go out of business.
Yeah. If you pay them minimum wage, then they're probably not going to stay very long at all. So you need to have a realistic, find that number to keep them for a realistic period.
Yep.
Because I think that'll stem into our next comment about the thriving wages. Because you can't, it's just this business is not a cash cow, and there's not enough positions to go around to expect people to stay forever.
Yeah. Maybe before we read that next comment, I think a lot of it comes down to, sorry if you guys can hear, it sounds like someone is using an angle grinder or some saw that is cutting metal.
It's definitely rotary though.
Definitely rotary. I feel like maybe something that hasn't been found out, or at least let in on by us, is like the perfect sustainable coffee shop model. How much do you spend on labor? Because in every area across the world, there's going to be different costs of living that would affect, maybe how much is a quote unquote thriving wage or what's a livable wage. But for a business, it's like what percent of your top line revenue goes to your labor. That's probably a pretty good number to find out what's most sustainable. Maybe on average, people say 33%, 30%. But I mean, for me, that's kind of what it comes down to, is finding your model. But that's what, what's his name? Speed Racer 9312.
The next comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of is like, if you can't pay the people, then you're in the wrong business, kind of thing. And it's like, that's tough because, people at different points in their lives need different sets of income. And I think we've gotten into it before with coffee, but it's one of those really interesting things where, not saying that it would work the same way, but, high schoolers want to work at coffee shops, but then also full grown adults with families also want to work at coffee shops. And the need of what would be considered a thriving wage for one is not for the other.
Yeah, but we should read the comment. And then my reply on this one, you can say what you want. It was not spicy. I was just trying to have a conversation.
No, I thought you this one lacked emotion and was very good. Dude, you didn't need an hour to say people need thriving wages so they won't stay long at places that don't pay them enough to raise a family. If the shop can't afford to pay their employees a thriving wage, their business model doesn't work and they shouldn't be in business. Simple as that. And Riley said, well, what is your definition of thriving wage? Able to save for retirement and afford healthcare or more than that? Our entire point in this podcast and the next one, which we're in right now, the entire point with this one and the next one we're releasing is that the industry needs to drive efforts to raise wages, but there is a point where that becomes unreasonable, and the insinuation that places simply shouldn't be in business if they can afford to pay.
Can't afford. I had a typo.
Oh, frick. If they can't afford to pay a thriving wage would mean there would be zero coffee shops or restaurants if too much money in wages gets dished out. This isn't some sort of cash cow. You like that term, don't you? Industry for the vast majority of small businesses, no matter how you structure the model. So it just isn't likely. It just isn't likely that being a career barista is going to happen in the US at least. I love your point about. I love both of your points. You're kind of both saying the same thing. I'm having a good time. But yeah, it just depends on what stage of life you're in. And I think that there are different jobs available for different people in different stages of life. And this is part of how we're getting into the whole pay band situation where, let's say we have one employee who is 17 and we tell them that at our coffee shop, you can make starting wage of $9 an hour here in Georgia. And then after tips, you can be bringing in around $20 an hour, especially if you work the weekends. It's more than $20. And they're like, what? Seriously? I'm going to be rolling in. I'm going to be buying Snicker bars left and right and gas money.
Balenciaga shoes.
We're going to be going to
like
Urban Outfitters and such like things. And then, let's say there's someone in my stage of life that has a family and I'm like, okay, like $20, okay, after taxes, that's like nothing. And then, okay, house payment, yeah, insurance, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, well, I guess I just won't be a barista. And that's what another comment said was like, yeah, as much as I love being a barista, I want to have a family one day. I want to have a house. Like, there's no way I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to say that, well, so then you get into, okay, so the people that we do have on our team, what stage of life are they in? And roundabout, how long can they be in this job? So we thought about this a lot over the years where, like, do we want to have a team with a bunch of like career all-stars that are here for a really long time and like somehow they're in a really ultra specific season of life where they can just rock $20 an hour for like 4 years? Because that's rarely a thing, but it is a thing. Mm-hmm. So do we want to go that way? Or do we want to be a little bit more of a residency for young people that are maybe they're here for a year, maybe they're here for 6 months, but we're always picking the top talent, knowing that they're not going to be here for very long. And we invest in them as much as we can, knowing that they're going to leave, knowing that, like, yes, on paper, this is high turnover, but we're saying yes to all of the best people, even if we know that there's no chance of longevity in the company because they're off to, better things or higher paying things. And I think it's just sort of been a mix of both for us. You kind of need, you need people that have side hustles. You need people that, I think we've said that before on the program, but I love the conversation. I love the different perspectives. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, it's really easy to segue from that into kind of our main topic for the day. But first, what coffees are we drinking?
Oh, I thought you would never ask. Can we just have a coffee corner for a second?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
I have so many things to cover. So we're still doing the multiple coffee brewing up thing. Hey, all this coffee was brewed with third wave water.
It was?
Third wave water.
Yes.
I was wondering why it was so vibrant.
Once again, I will say the vibrancy is speaking for itself.
That's right.
We have a beloved pit crew member, Paul, Judy, got us this. Probably picked it up, if I had to guess, from Meadowlark,
I would also guess.
from our friend JP. Never heard of these folks before.
You say
Swevin.
Swevin or Sweven?
I'm going Swevin. What do you think a British person would say? Because they're from Bristol. And
Sweep. Sweven.
you're sweet.
You're like,
Swevin. I don't know.
I'm going to go Sweven.
Swevin. Whatever. We're moving on. Columbia Huila. El Diviso. Dude, I don't even know what this process means. It says advanced natural obligon.
yeah, I've never seen that.
Hey, roast me in the comments if you
Advanced
want, but I'm
natural-
sorry, I don't
Lack
know
of
this.
education.
Advanced natural octagon, or what was that?
What the obli jojo do.
Obligon.
This was roasted a while ago. I'm going to be real. Like March 11th, which is 2 months ago. And it is fire, okay? I mean, it's this one. Did you have this one?
I don't know. One of you guys poured my cup of coffee.
I believe you had this one. If it was really fruity,
Yeah.
then yes.
Great.
Very high brightness. You got to respect the lychee note on there.
Respect.
Respect the lychee note. It's got like a cool paper wrap on it. I wonder if that's how they distinguish their boxes.
Are you ready
or-
to hear about Obligon?
I'm ready.
Are you okay? I'm sorry.
No, I was on like a really good flow state.
Yeah, okay. So Obligon is a relatively new varietal. It's a varietal.
Oh.
The way it's on the box makes it seem like it's a processing method.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, discovered in very recent years in Huila, Colombia. And in fact, to be more precise, Obligon is a natural mutation of an Ethiopia landrace. Ombligo is belly button in Spanish.
Whoa.
Well, come on with that.
How about that?
Do they look like belly buttons?
Has characteristics of a Caturra, such as wide leaves, cherries, which grow close together, branches grow vertically, high yields, denser than other varieties, less floaters or non-developed beans present, and flotation tanks, and so on. And that was from Sweven's website.
Wow.
Oh.
So they do
Shout
explain. I love that.
That is deep cut, dude.
That's cool.
And that good SEO, guys, because I just Googled that word.
And it was them?
And they were like number 3 on.
Was it a blog post?
No,
It was just that coffee?
no, it's this coffee, brother. Look at that.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Dang.
So way to go, guys. Way
Okay.
to get your SEO on.
Go Bristol.
This-
But black and white's beating you out though. So they were number 1.
So one more thing on Third Wave Water. We use the light roast profile for all of our filter. We use the espresso for all of our espresso drinks, but they have several, including dark, medium, cold brew, low acid.
We got to jump into dude, brewing that coffee with the low acid would
Whoa.
be very interesting to
That
do
would
a
be
little.
crazy.
Oh no.
I wonder if it's like
I just proposed a side by side and we're not going to do it.
Oh.
Oh, busted. I'm kidding.
I wonder if
We're
it's
having fun with it.
it's a chemical type of low acid or if it's a perceived acidity type of low acid.
Well, that's why we have to do this side by
That's
We're
right.
gonna do
we
double
We
blind
do.
taste tests.
But if you use code VALOR at checkout with Third Wave Water, you can get any and all of this for 10% off.
Come on with that.
So make sure to do that. Thank you to Third Wave Water for supporting the program.
Thank you, Third Wave Water. Okay, this is an interesting thing about this coffee. And one thing that I think we're starting to do, maybe, there's murmurs of a new website for Valor. Murmurs. But have you noticed, I feel like it's getting more and more common for people to say, like, use this coffee for this. Like, this is for filter. This is for filter or espresso.
Mm.
This coffee says, like, filter or something. It's just like, do it. Roasted for filter. And I scoff at that, right? At least where I'm coming from. I'm like, coffee's coffee. You can do anything you want with it. I go to make the espresso. I grind it as fine as I can on the EK, which, whatever. We don't have the best espresso burrs on it.
Geometry.
I get that. Yeah, the geometry's not there. But still, 20-gram dose. zeroed out on the EK. I run it through the espresso machine. It gushes more than I've ever seen a coffee gush before. Probably I'm at like 50 or 60 grams by 12 seconds. And I'm like, I guess I'm just going to have fun with this and take it to 100 grams in 17 seconds and see what happens. But what do you think is happening on the back end when they say roasted for filter? And then I actually go try to make an espresso and I can't do it. Like I can't hit the parameters of what would be espresso.
Well, it's incredibly light, first of all.
Yeah.
You can't, on that EK, that's why we should just use the DF64 because it would be able to do it because it has more espresso tailored burrs in it. Which that's my grinder that I purchased from China and it shipped 3 months later. So I bought another grinder in the medium term and now I have to review that one and then sell it. Anyways, that grinder can't go as light as this coffee is because this coffee is incredibly light. And I mean, obviously there are some other things like density that play into that as well. And the process that the coffee went through and how much that strips out of the beans. But that's the main thing. And I totally agree with you. But I think the real ones know. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are super, super, super into coffee, who look at this coffee on their website and see filter, that's not going to stop them from buying this coffee and pulling it on espresso.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to do filter, though, right?
I'm just telling you, me from my stance at home, I have a coffee from Doc called Gimlet. That is
You bought personally?
Yeah.
Dude, we're
from Meadowlark.
Dang.
It's a thermal shock Colombia Churroso. And it says filter on it. And I've only pulled it on espresso.
And you were like, screw you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy this on espresso.
I commented on their Instagram picture.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't it just an issue of solubility? Like if you put our new dark roast that we're releasing, can I say the name of it?
Yeah.
Turbo Diesel. Okay. Our new dark roast. So if you were to put that in the hopper, or not in the hopper, grind it on the same grind setting on the EK that you did this very light coffee, it would probably not even come out for maybe 17 seconds.
Right.
You maybe get some drips. So maybe that's just what it means. It's super light.
Yeah.
Hey, but what's funny, this doesn't taste bad.
No, I think it tastes pretty awesome.
It's cool.
Because I was thinking like we do the middle child in our cafes, which is a 1-to-9 brew ratio. We're grinding it much coarser than espresso, but like much finer than, anything else that you brew with a filter. And we run it for 180 grams. I was like, yeah, I guess I'll just let this thing rip for some time and, kind of break the mold a little bit. It's almost like I just made a long black without any bypass.
You made a middle child almost.
Long black.
That cherry Bakewell note's really coming out too.
No, legit. Okay, so that's this coffee. It's awesome. And then I brewed up. We got a sample from Doc at SCA. That was called Honeymoon, a Colombia Churroso. Dude, the Huila is we're just brewing up two Colombians.
Colombia they've got the coffee.
And once again, it says filter. Are we going to say that? Are we saying that? Are we going to start doing that?
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to say filter. I think we're going to say like pour over.
We should have like our version of that. Like, especially just like we're saying what we believe on this podcast right now, which is like kind of against this.
Mm-hmm.
So we should have, I don't know. I feel like we should just have our version of that.
I don't believe against this. That's the thing. It's like Miracle. I think Miracle should say that the recommendation is drip. I think Free Throw should say espresso, drip, milk drinks. I think our Rwanda should say pour over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people can, then take that and do their own thing with it. We can put espresso on every single one of them if we want to. That's totally fine. I wouldn't brew Rwanda on drip personally.
Just because it's a big batch. Is that like a practical thing or a quality thing?
Both. I mean, it's expensive coffee. Who wants to brew that on drip?
Well, my whole point is like you can brew just as good on a batch brewer
And so-
as you can on a pour over.
So thus, maybe you just say filter.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Looks like we need to talk about this in our owners meeting.
I don't know if you guys have tasted the Trosa, but it's a really fun complement to such a crazy processing.
I
method.
like this coffee a lot.
It's really, really
Is that what you have there?
Yes.
Little guy? Let me taste it. If you
No,
don't mind.
get your own.
Well, maybe I'll
Just
just.
kidding. There you go.
Okay.
I think that's all I had to say about coffee. We finally had some milk around, and I made a couple swoon cappuccinos, and that's what these are.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And
Those are good.
they're awesome.
Yeah, I liked.
They're really good.
Yeah.
So, hey, speaking of, maybe that's not a coffee that we say put on espresso all the time,
Mm.
but there's something to, dialing it in, finding that sweet spot. I think I was a lot more averse to milk drinks with like funky coffees, but hey, when it hits, it hits.
All right. In our last program, we talked about all of the bad when it comes to turnover and the things that cause that, including low wages, crappy work environment, people not enjoying their coworkers, people moving. There are many things. So if you haven't listened to that, then go back and give that a listen. But this week we wanted to dive into, some simple, 1, 2, 3 points that can help you with that problem of retention.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way we're going to spin it is, again, in light of the comment that we read a few minutes ago, how can you do this and make it realistic? Because just to preface here, even if we could pay $100,000 to every barista that worked for us,
Not saying we don't do that.
should we pay that? And that's why Chris's point from Keys to the Shop is amazing, because he says pay what you can, not what you can get away with.
Hmm.
That works on both sides,
Plus or minus.
Yes. So if why would you try to get away with paying that much money if you can pay a fair wage that isn't insane and isn't going to, tank the rest of your company? Or beyond that, and here's the dicey comment, is the position skilled enough to warrant an insane salary?
No.
Agreed.
And that is not determined by the value and worth and dignity of the human, but it is determined by how much the drinks cost.
Mm.
Simple as that.
And the ability to learn the skill.
Well, I mean, somebody can have an incredible ability to learn the skill, but like if the skill doesn't generate enough revenue to pay that person, then it's not a skill worth that as decided by the market.
So I'm saying, what if the skill even did generate enough revenue?
Yeah, then I would say you would definitely raise the wage.
Yeah, but would you raise it within reason, or would you just keep on going? Because that's kind of my point, is like, at what point does the law of diminishing returns take place?
Yeah, where it's like,
How good of a barista can you be?
I think the job title just kind of transitions, because I feel like the whole thing would evolve into this like place where these people they're like hosts, they're like masters of ceremony, where you like come and it's a total experience. And we see like glimpses of that through what we do, but it takes so many people in and out. So it's interesting to think about the attempts of like the Blue Bottle tasting room and those kind of experiences where you can pay more and then thus expect more from the person to have this deep wealth of knowledge, this like eloquent presentation, this like a lot of time designated. But kind of like the most valuable thing, what makes people the most valuable in our industry, in our area right now, is like, can you go really, really fast and still be really nice? And you have to serve as many people as you can. And it's just like, you're going to see less of that person. So,
because that's where the value comes.
that's where you like that's where you like make your position worth it.
By doing it a lot.
You're like making
Yeah.
more drinks and you're serving
Right.
more people. So it kind of can go in a couple different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But Yeah, that'd be interesting. It's just it's a change of industry. It's like a change of profession almost.
Yeah. So just to put a finer point on what you're saying, because I think it's really good. Like you got one side where the speed of service is very, very slow, but you get a really, really intensive experience that is unlike any other, like with the blue bottle. If you guys haven't looked that up or seen that, do we know what it's called? Blue bottle. I'm sure you could
tasting room or something.
Yeah, you
I
could.
don't know.
I'm sure you could look that up. So that's one side, and then the other side, which is kind of where we're at, is like make the best drinks you possibly can as quickly as you possibly can, because one, we just want people to have their drinks quickly, but two, it's like that's how we can maximize the revenue coming through the door, and then we can disperse that amongst the team, because value is found in how quickly and it's the dual-headed monster of speed and quality. That's the value that we're on. So I would just say probably that 99.9% of the listeners are more on our side of things. Of like, I doubt that there's that many people doing tasting rooms listening to this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reality we're living in.
Yeah. So with all that being said, the number one way you can reduce turnover is to pay people more. I think that one comment was very accurate with that. So I want to just press into what we're doing to work in that direction of paying our baristas more money.
And you want someone else to say it.
Yes.
Okay. At this moment, I will now say it. Yeah, we started, and we're fresh to this. We're on like a new path, maybe like 6 months in to that conversation of saying like, hey, everybody, you've been just kind of making the same money. There's been like a $1 raise moment to go to like a shift lead position. But now we're kind of just like stretching that ceiling another like $5 and saying like, let's assess tenure. Let's assess experience. Let's assess skill and development. And then reward you for that like hard work that you're putting in. And so, yeah, we got to do some like reactive work for some people that have been around for a while. And then also reward people for their work. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, I would love to be able to just like, it's a really interesting dynamic of like trying to assess everybody's value in their role with the tension of like knowing that this person is genuinely invaluable, that they're amazing. That's kind of what Ross was talking about, is like putting value on the role while understanding the innate immense value of that person. But it's been a great conversation for like our head coaches to, call people higher and say like, yeah, if you want more, like this is what you can grow in. And honestly, I think it starts to achieve a totally different aspect of why you stay in your job that we can get into later. But it's just like the concept of feedback, fulfillment, and like mentorship, that you're in a place that is challenging you and pushing you and like is causing you to grow, whether you stay in coffee or not. And that kind of speaks to Ross's point about like, we're not maybe the most interested in having all these career baristas, but we just want to see people, young adults, develop and learn and grow, and then take those skills with them into whatever future that they are going to walk into. And hopefully they're better off for working at Valor for a couple of years because of that. And in that time, if we can see their work and reward them monetarily, that's one thing, but see their work and reward them with encouragement and care and leadership. Because thinking about how much we're talking about money in the comments was interesting to me, because I was like, I can't tell you how many people talk to us and they're like, oh, I hate my corporate job and I just want to do what you guys are doing. And I know, I'm not saying that like money's not important, but I'm like, there's so many people that make way more money than us and are so unhappy in what they're doing.
And there's a lot of people that stay at jobs for a long time knowing they could make more money somewhere else, but they stay at that job because they're being fulfilled in other ways.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm not trying to hype on that 100% because of, the conversation around like we are trying to do things to raise wages for our team, and I don't want to use that as just like an excuse. And I think I probably did for a long time of like, hey, well, this is just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But then reflecting on like, well, man, it's been years, and this is something where like the only way someone can get a raise is if they like get a promotion, basically. But trying to get away from that because we're kind of shrinking the leadership room so that we can make space for the people that are just doing the day-to-day operations to be able to make more. But it's been awesome.
And it's been said on previous episodes, but when we give someone a raise as a barista, we're not trying to load them with a bunch of work that takes them away from barista, that takes them away from what got them to where they are, because that would be good because they're making more money, but bad because that's less time they're spending doing what they're best at, which is being a barista. Yeah. So there are certain skills that people can develop, that baristas can develop, to provide more value for the company and still stay in that like environment in the cafe, such as learning how to train people. That's kind of one of the main ones that comes to mind as we're moving people along in the pay band journey, giving them raises instead of saying like, hey, now you're over inventory and that's why you get a raise. Because first of all, inventory is not that hard of a skill to learn. So why would that even necessitate a raise? That's kind of a separate topic. I just think that's funny that like, that's the first like step in a raise for a barista is like, now you're over inventory because inventory is so hard. Separate thing. But if they learn the training protocols and training programs that we have, and they're able to not only teach new hires those things, but also keep those standards high when they're on bar, but like that person's still on bar is the key to that. Mm-hmm. That is more valuable. And that generates more revenue coming through the door because the whole experience is better and the team is better off. So there's certain skills that people can develop that necessitates a raise, but doesn't take them away from the bar. And I think that's really like the core of pay bands.
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking about it too, you really have to do a pretty monster raise to take someone away from the bar because a lot of times you're losing tips. So you can be a lot more
That's a good point.
Effective and beneficial to the person to pay them more per hourly on top of their tips instead of paying them maybe a good bit more hourly, but you're taking them away from the bar.
Right. If somebody was at $10 an hour and they're making $10 an hour in tips, and then you gave them a $2 raise, which is like pretty, significant in hourly work.
Yeah.
And then they worked on bar, let's say
30% less.
Yeah, 30% less, than they are making less money. So, yeah.
Man. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's the main one. Does anything else come to mind? You mentioned something about mentorship and how that could, play into.
Yeah. We kind of started talking about it last week a little bit, I think, but I think I was sharing how I was wrestling with, I'm not the one that kind of looks after everybody now, but how important it is to ensure that you have people in spaces of leadership to make sure that everyone on your team has someone to go to, basically. And, reflecting on like Lillaby and Alpharetta, I've been like very out of the Alpharetta Cafe because I've been the head coach in Dunwoody for a few months, but knowing like she is absolutely for all of those people, having a leader and a mentor and a coach that is like constantly encouraging, constantly calling people higher, constantly like checking in and knowing about their lives. I'm like, that is really rare in a workplace. And if I was working under her, I'm like, I think I'd want to stay there.
Yeah.
Like to know that someone is caring for me and like trying to develop me as a person and like speaking life and speaking honestly about where I am and where I need to be. I mean, that is like invaluable, especially when you kind of zoom out and think about like they're going to go do something else with their life, but they can learn so many amazing character lessons and traits and then continue in whatever path they're going down. That's kind of awesome.
Especially that, and we were talking about the concept of you talking to people in corporate jobs who say, I make money, but I'm not happy. You know, the other side is, oh, like greedy coffee shop owners don't want to pay people money. But there is that simple fact of, if you are paying what you can, people are coming to the job for more than just the pay. And I think Lillaby is a really awesome example of that because, in our conversation with her as well, she's like, I don't even know what I make. I really enjoy this job.
Yeah.
Because she could be doing anything if she wanted to because she's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're in a corporate job and you feel like you are very easily replaceable, that's a pretty bad feeling.
Yeah.
Because then whenever times get tough, you're like, I'm just going to go work somewhere else and no one's going to even notice. But like if your whole value that you bring to the job and your whole connection to the job is just the work that you're doing, you're filling a role, you're doing these tasks, and then you think to yourself, somebody else could very easily do this job. And you're like, okay, I'm just going to leave if times get tough. But if you have someone that's looking after you that has a relationship with you, that's invested in you, and I think that's another point for later is making investment in your employees. But if there is someone that has made this investment in you, that knows your life, that hears the woes and the wins of your job, alliteration, sorry, that's something. Like that's a huge thing. And we said it last week that in interviewing people, when we ask them, hey, what was like the best and the worst part of your last job? It's always people.
Mm-hmm.
Either one. People were either the best part of my job or people were either the worst part of my job. And so if you're a barista working in whatever town and there's like several specialty coffee shops in that town and you're just working at one of the coffee shops, then when times get tough, you think, well, I'm just going to go work at the other specialty coffee shop in town. Maybe it's better. Sometimes I go there and it seems like it's cool there. It doesn't seem so toxic. Like, okay, then you just hop jobs over to the next specialty coffee shop. And like, is it actually better though?
Yeah.
Do you have someone that is pouring into you and mentoring you and gives a crap about you?
Well, I think that is a really good segue to our third and final point. And it is, if your job doesn't hold some extra amount of value beyond handing out coffees, then you're probably not going to feel good about staying there. I think back to the jobs I had in the past where it was centered around just making coffee and handing it to a customer, bringing in cash and paying the people and keeping the place afloat. That job did not fulfill me at all. I always had the thought of, what is the point of this business?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I always think about. Or if I even see companies out there and it kind of seems like they don't have anything that they do other than just make coffee. I'm like, what is the point of this business? And whenever I felt that way, I was instantly looking for a way out of that. I was looking for my next coffee job, or if I went to the next coffee job and I still felt that way, maybe Valor was in the background and I was wanting to do something that made me feel like I was, called to a higher purpose. So if we don't give people a framework for what the business means, then the business is going to be meaningless to them.
Yeah. And I think it's a probably pretty scary, but revelatory and can lead to healing question to ask yourself, why am I doing this? If you're a business owner, why does my business exist? And maybe the answer to that is like, well, I thought it'd be cool to start a coffee shop. And it would be cool. And it'd be fun. Well, then that is your reason, but you need a way of conveying that to other people because money isn't the only thing that's going to keep them there. So like one of the best business books that I've read, I've said it so many times on the program, but Start With Why, Simon Sinek. The whole thesis of that book is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Mm-hmm. And applying that to employees is very, very true. People don't just work at your coffee shop because of what you do. They work at your coffee shop because of why you do it. And if you can't communicate clearly why you are doing what you're doing, then you're kind of dead in the water before you even start on that one, because no one will know why you're doing what you're doing. And so that's what our whole I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect at that. We've grown over the years of like very clearly communicating more and more, why are we doing this and how do you fit into it?
Yeah.
And that's what orientation is for us. And that's why, I think it's still in our Instagram bio, but our mission, uplifting people through coffee. Like that's why we do this. We want to have this radiating outward effect from our cafes and from our wholesale experience and from our e-commerce website of a positive impact that has a ripple effect that then impacts people in their future interactions that we don't even see.
Yeah.
Like that's something that people can buy into. And whenever you're hiring, you should hire people that are already living your mission in their life so that when you hire them, you can just include them in on your journey. And that way, the journey and the mission of your company will just continue to further all these individuals' missions. And you don't have to teach them to be nice or teach them to do what you want them to do, because they'll just be who they are, and who they are will be the same as what you are. And then you have this collective imagination where each person is living the mission in their own unique way. And then that is what makes a culture.
Go off, King.
But if we're not communicating it clearly, and if we're just a cool coffee shop, then when times get tough, people are just going to go work at another cool coffee shop where their friend works at.
Mm.
That kind of thing will get you accused of being a cult, though, too, which is funny.
Sure, that's fine. Or people will burn out because they're like, man, I thought I wanted to be a barista, but this kind of sucks. This is really hard. This is harder than I thought. But if you don't have that mission that aligns with your personal mission in your life,
yeah,
then you're like, man, I'm just working for the man. But Lilby doesn't view her job as working for the man because she loves to mentor people as Lilby. She just gets to do that here. So we're aligned. Like there's values alignment in that. And that's what keeps her fueled, is not like we're doing so much for her or we're paying her so much. She doesn't even know what, like you just said, like she doesn't like keep super track of what she makes. It's like, okay, that's a cool opportunity for us. Just kidding. That's a joke. But she would do what she does here wherever she worked. She could be working in peanut farming peanuts and such. She would be in Lilby, And so you got to find people like that are already doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah. That's a really funny perspective to hiring that I've had lately, is like, I'm trying to figure out if you're going to like this in that like really deep heart way.
Mm.
And unfortunately, I have to make that decision for you, because everybody's like, yeah, I want this job. I really want this job. And I'm like, why do you really want this job? Like,
yeah, because in their mind, they're like, this is an attractive environment. I like it. It feels good here.
I would like to be here.
I want to feel good.
And then I'm like,
But you got to be the one making people feel good.
well, yeah, it's like, I know you like being at this party, but do you like hosting this kind of party?
Mm.
The one that wakes up earlier than everyone else and like gets all the stuff ready. And you're like, you're at the party, but you're also like the host of the party. It's such a different thing.
Yeah, you got to be a different breed of dog.
Yeah. Built different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we built different.
Well, that was great, Ross. Good job, man.
It's just all so easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all so simple.
It just comes back to intentionality, and that care of like, if you're have your own business and you're in charge, are you looking after your people like this? Or if you're bigger, do you have people looking after these people and giving them something to sink their teeth into? We went through a really interesting transition of, we were like in the cafe 24/7. People were like, I'm going to follow these guys. I like what these guys are doing, so I'm going to do it with them. But now you guys are here mostly. I'm kind of hopping around, and it's more like, who is Valor and how can we communicate what Valor is for everybody and have people besides us living it out that people want to follow in cafes.
Yeah.
Because I remember that. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest transition. You know, people are like, where are the owners? Where are the guys?
Right.
I kind of signed up to work at a small business where I could be shoulder to shoulder with these guys.
Yeah. Well, we held the culture within ourselves.
Yeah.
And we radiated Valor culture out from literally our bodies, like, and what we did, you know? But when you're not there and you have to hire someone else to be that for you, but in their own unique way, if you don't have mission, vision, and values to sort of figure out, is this leader going to fit in our mission, vision, and values, then that whole thing will fall flat. And just really quick, like we've said it before on a podcast, but I know we have a bunch of new listeners since then.
Because we went viral.
Right. Mission, vision, values, those are just some buzzwords, right? But this is like the framework and structure for a culture to grow on top of. So a mission for us, people define this in different ways, but a mission for us is the fuel that a train uses to get to the destination. The vision is the destination that the train is headed to. So like the whole reason the train is in motion is to get to that destination. That's the vision. And then the values are the train tracks that keep that train headed towards the vision. So you got the mission is the fuel, train tracks are the values, the destination is the vision. And so that, I think that can just give you some framework to say like, okay, well, what's going to be like our daily thing that we need to think about in order to become who we want to become? That's your mission. And then like, as we're doing that, what are some other things that we really need to be thinking about that are going to keep us pointed in the right direction? Mm-hmm. And then, by the way, like, what is the direction? Like, what are we going after? And maybe you could answer that by asking yourself, like, why did you start this? Because we started Valor because we saw coffee shops that were either really good at coffee and really bad at service, or really good at service and really bad at coffee. And our whole thing was like, what if we could do the best of both worlds? And then that became our vision, which is to match the top 1% of coffee in the world with the top 1% of hospitality in the world. And so just, I think like doing some soul searching has really afforded us a much better framework and structure to like keep our culture headed where it needs to be headed, especially as we've scaled. And I think all that, like everything we're saying, just feeds into turnover. It's like, it's not just one thing. It's sort of all of it.
Yeah. And if you find people that are down with that and they can sink their teeth into it, that gives them reason to show up to work every day. You know, that's called purpose, which is awesome.
Well, they're giving us the light. We got to wrap this one. But that was all very insightful. Thank you guys for just coaching me through this.
Yeah, I hope this helps you out.
Yeah.
Little guy.
I'm going to be starting my own coffee company soon, so.
You're going to go far, kid.
You got this, man.
What's Farkid?
He meant Farquad.
Okay. All right. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.